So tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of different people sharing stories with us. And first up, we have... The clicker isn't working. Oh, wait, it is. It just took a moment. Danielle, and I asked everyone for a fun fact before we started. And Danielle's fun fact is that she's trying to run 1 marathon per continent. And she's done 2 marathons already. Well, 2 continents. She's run 2 marathons in 2 different continents. And she's now training for a marathon in Patagonia. So I get a round of applause to Danielle.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm gonna do something in this next 10 minutes that I'm pretty comfortable with. I tell stories a lot for my work. I run an organization that's called Women Talk Design, and our mission is to get a more diverse group of speakers on stage. And so I tell a lot of stories about how we were founded and about the people in our community. And I also teach a lot about storytelling, and that's something I'm going to try to interweave in today, is a little bit about what makes a good story. But I'm also going to do something that I'm not comfortable with, that in fact scares the shit out of me. In the story that I'm going to tell today, I'm going to be the protagonist. And the reason I'm doing this, even though it scares the shit out of me, and I could be telling stories about the amazing people in our community and that I've come across, is I thought about, when I was putting together this talk, what my why was. Whenever we work with speakers in our community, we do a lot of coaching for new speakers, and we always tell them to start with their why they want to give a talk. And my why is that I want to see people who are not normally up here on stage speaking. And so often when I talk to, especially women and non-binary folks, those are the people that we're trying to get on stage, when I talk to them about why aren't they speaking, there's a lot of reasons. That's a whole other talk that I could be giving. But something that comes up often is, well, what would I talk about? What do people want to hear from me? Like, what hasn't been talked about already? And so I start to ask them, well, what are you working on right now? Or what's a problem that you're trying to solve? What are you working through? And they start to tell me all these really incredible things, right? And these are women and non-binary folks, all different parts of their career, doing really amazing stuff. But when it comes to why they are not speaking about this, it normally has to do with that they're still figuring it out. It's a work in progress, right? They haven't solved it yet. They don't have the answers. It's an unfinished story, if you will. And so they don't feel like they're ready to give it. And so the reason that I made myself the protagonist in the story I'm about to tell is because my story is unfinished. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that today. So I have some slides. Let's see. Oh, okay. So for the slides here, I'm going to draw, I drew out what I normally do when I teach about storytelling, the different elements of the story. And so I have them up there since I can't draw them here tonight. And so we'll walk through the different parts of my story. So every story needs a character. As I mentioned, I'm the character in my story. I run an organization called Women Talk Design. I previously worked at an organization called General Assembly. I helped build their programs in several of their cities and different locations. I also co-founded and run Austin's Design Week. So I'm a builder. I like to start things that I really want to see exist in the world that are important to me. But just like everyone else, I also have imposter syndrome in a lot of ways. I'm not a designer, and I spent most of my career working with designers. I'm also fairly young for my age, and that's something that intimidates me a lot when I'm working and managing people that are much older than me, who've been in their careers much longer than me. So it's a little bit about me, a little bit about your character. But every character, let's see, it's a little slow right here. All right, we'll see if this loads, but every character, what would come next is a little heart and a little star, and that's to show the goals and motivations of the character, because every character, when you're starting a story, they have to have some type of goal or motivation. Oh, there they are. And so my goal, for the purpose of this story, is that I want to build Women Talk Design into a sustainable organization that lasts. And my underlying motivation of that is I truly believe, this is something Des had mentioned, that we need to see more diverse leadership. And although, yes, thank you. Although speaking is not the answer, I think it is an important part of it. The people who have, the mic is a form of power, and the people that we see on stage, they're the people that we see as leaders. They're the ideas that we hear and the people that we listen to. And so we need to see more people that we don't normally see on stage up here. And so that is my underlying motivation for my goal. And so this story starts on August 10th, 2017. I was having lunch with Christina Woodkey. She's a woman I've known for many years through General Assembly. And she has actually started Women Talk Design back in 2013 as a directory of speakers. She was speaking at a lot of conferences at the time, was often the only woman on stage, was really pissed off about it, and put up a website to feature other amazing women that she knew. And we were talking over the past several months about whether or not I would take over this website that she had started, and if I could do something more with it. If I could take all of the learnings that some of her interns had worked on and turn it into a sustainable organization. And so that's when my story starts, when I was sitting across from the table from Christina and told her, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take this on full time and turn Women Talk Design into a sustainable organization. And she asked me, that's great, I'm so glad you're gonna do it, but how is this organization gonna make money, right? Like that's an important part of sustainability, is that some type of money needs to be coming in. And it was really important to me to keep things accessible to the community and keep things low cost, but I have a strong belief that companies also want to see more diverse leadership. And so they were gonna help us pay for this organization to make it happen through sponsorship and trainings. And so thinking back about our story, what makes a story interesting? If I told you everything worked out, everything's going great, that's really boring, right? Who wants to hear that? What makes a story interesting is the struggles, right? It's the try, fail. It's the things are going well, but then suddenly they don't. And let me tell you, I have tried and I have failed. And I am trying and I am failing. And so the beginning of this story, we got pretty lucky early on. We had a company that really wanted to invest in what we were doing. They wanted to give a large amount of sponsorship and be a sustaining partner to help us with what we were doing. So we asked them for a ton of money. They gave us a generous chunk, not all of it. And so the first year we were able to do 20 different events in 8 cities to redesign our website. We were just about to hire someone, so it wasn't just me doing all this. So we can continue to do all this work. And then my contact got changed. And then the company reorged. And budgets changed, and my new contact left, and there was no more money. So I tried and I failed. But that's okay. I knew all along that we needed to have more partners. We couldn't just rely on one person. And so I had started to reach out to other people. And so we had our first company come on board and do a training, and it was something that they were really excited about. We were going to build speaker training internally at their company and do this kind of all over a massive company. And so we did our first training, and it was all women. They were really excited. They came out with some great talks, some ideas for talks, some ideas that they were going to take back to their teams and keep building them. And they were really excited about the next one. And then I couldn't reach my contact again. I've never felt so ghosted in my life. I've emailed and called, and we set up new meetings, and I just could not hear from him again. And the few times that I did reach him, he told me how amazing the training was, but then never set up the next one. And so I continue to reach out to more organizations. I have this whole Trello board of people and what they're interested in, and we're having good conversations and we're talking and people want to do this. And then budgets change and priorities change and people stop responding because people are busy, and I get it. And then we get these emails where people tell us, like, I took your training and it seriously changed my life. Right? I finally submit to that first conference. I'm going to be speaking at my first big conference. I have a whole new level of confidence in my ability to be in front of people and articulate my ideas. And so every story also has a crisis moment. Oh, there we go. Crisis moments, when things get really bad, right? When they hit, I have both the crisis here and the climax, because normally things get really bad, hit rock bottom, but there's some type of change, right? Some type of change in tide, something that happens before everything can be resolved at the end and come together. Some days I think I hit my crisis. Some days when I'm looking at all of the people who haven't responded, the things that I thought were going to come through that didn't, the P&L that just is really not adding up right now, sometimes I think I'm there. But most of the time I know it can get worse, right? I'm very privileged, I'm very lucky. I know that I am not in the situation that I could be, which is both promising but also terrifying because it can get worse. But my story is still in progress. The story is unfinished. Right? I know that there will be more tries and fails. There will probably be a crisis before my climax, and I don't have a resolution to share with you yet. But I still wanted to share this talk because I do still have a call to action at the end of it. I hope that as you're listening, some of you might be thinking, well, I'm working on something and I'm in the middle of it and I am trying and I am failing, and hopefully this helps you feel that you are not alone, because you're not. There's probably many people in here who are trying and failing and trying to figure it out. But I also hope that in that progress, in that story, you'll share your story with other people. You'll both let them know that you're not alone, they're not alone, and also invite them to contribute, to share, to say, have you thought about this? Or, oh, I've tried this. People love to solve other people's problems. They don't love to solve their own, right? And so that's what I wanted to tell you today, is that this is my unfinished story. It's not a full one, but I hope that next time you have the opportunity or are thinking whether or not you should raise your hand or about to say no, that you'll go ahead and tell your story in progress. Thank you.
Thank you. So I know everyone's sitting at the back, but it's really intimidating when you're speaking to an audience and there's a lot of empty seats up the front. So would some of you mind coming forwards and filling up these seats? Also, I realized that I never actually introduced myself, so I've just been talking, but I'm Desiree. I have been the organizer of these events so far. Claire in the red has been co-organizing this one, so thank you, Claire. I have to find the fun facts again. Okay, so Namchi plays 5 different instruments, which is a lot. Okay, so she plays guitar, bass, ukulele, piano, and drums. Also, she's a photographer and also a front-end developer. I don't know how she does so many things, but some people are very talented, and I'm always jealous.
Thank you, Des. Hi, everyone. I'm Namchi, and I am a senior software engineer at Eventbrite. When I'm not coding, I'm a skateboarder, and I'm also a photographer. So the story I'm going to tell today is how I went from taking photos of all of my favorite bands to shooting the world's best female skateboarders. So yeah, a little bit about myself. I grew up in Palmdale, California, if anyone knows where that is. I've been skating since I was in 2nd grade, so it's kind of, that's who I am. I got my first video camera in 4th grade, and I've been interested in photography since middle school. So fast forward a few years from there, I went to the Art Institute, San Diego, California. Yeah, Bree knows. And when I graduated, I got my first web development job. And from there, I could kind of start saving my money to get my dream camera setup. And at the time, that was like my prime of being a skater. I really wanted to be a skate filmer. So I was working in San Diego, but at the same time, I wanted to work in the skate industry somehow. So I hit up all of these different big companies out there. Like, hey, I'm a filmer. Hey, I'm a skateboarder. Like, hire me. Literally did not hear anything back from anyone. At the same time, Eventbrite reached out to me, and they're like, hey, you want to work for a San Francisco startup? I'm like, sure, yeah, why not? I interviewed, got the job out here, and moved out to San Francisco. During that time, I started following a bunch of women-owned skateboarding companies. And I was like, this is really cool. Like, I want to get involved somehow. I've been skating since I was little. How do I do it? I gave them the same spiel. Like I emailed all of them. I was like, hey, hire me, basically. I want to shoot for you. How do I get in? Did not hear anything back. I was like, okay, well, I have all this cool camera equipment. What do I do with it? I started following a bunch of music photographers, so I kind of got inspired on Instagram. And I was like, if they can do it, I can do it too. So what I did was I was like, I've had a press pass before, and it was really easy to get. Why don't I just like pretend that I'm a publication, get like a WordPress site up, and like hit up all these bands and shoot them. So I created Mosh Lounge, and Mosh Lounge is actually still up. You go to it, and this is literally where I started by myself this music publication. And so I did that for about 6 months, and I literally got to shoot festivals like Aftershock and Metal Mayhem Festival and all this stuff. And it was like the coolest thing ever, all while working as a software engineer. So it was really tiring, but fast forward about 6 months later, I get this email from Kim Woo, and it's like, hey, we've been following your work. I'm the founder of Mafia, which is a global destination for women's action sports. And we have a few opportunities for you. Like, let's get on like a Skype phone call or something. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And so I get on a Skype call with her. She's like, well, the first opportunity, like, we shoot Penny skateboard commercials. Would you like to do like behind the scenes for that? Fun fact, I actually got to be in that commercial. So if you look up like Penny Skateboards commercial, I'm probably in it. So I did that. And then the second opportunity was like, we are going out to Austin to shoot the X Games and we need a photographer. Would you be down? And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, yes, definitely. So that's like the beginning of my skateboarding photography career. And yeah, basically when I got there to Austin, I was literally just thrown into the women's practice of of idols I've been looking up to since my entire life. You know, like just skaters that are just competing. And from there, I built a relationship with all of them because they're not used to another woman on the field with them. They're used to all these like ESPN photographers that are just like getting in their way, and like as a skater and as a woman, I became friends with them, and I got to know how all of them skate, how, like where to stand, and I got to like learn this practice. And they were so impressed with the photos I took, they kept inviting me back. So since then, I was able to travel to Austin multiple times to shoot X Games. We went to X Games Oslo, where that was like the first time women had ever been outside of California to compete. They started Women's Street League, which that was unheard of also. There's always a men's street league, but to be at the first Women's Street League and shoot that event in Chicago was just like, it was incredible just being on the stage or on the course and shooting them. So yeah, I guess the purpose of my story is just like, if you're passionate about something, just keep going for it. And like, even if no one believes in you at that time, like just don't give up and just keep doing it. Because now I'm friends with like all these Olympic athletes that are about to go be in the Olympics for skateboarding. So yeah, that's my story. I have a bunch of photos I'm gonna share. I wanted to save them for last. So here we go. How do I do it? Oh yeah, so I'm gonna take you through one of my first concert shots. It's August Burns Red, if anyone's into metal. I really love this shot. Yeah, it really captures the energy there. Yeah, this is Bless the Fall on the side stage at the Regency. Let Live, while they were a band at the Warfield. Yellow Card for anyone who knows who they are. Yeah, I had to choose a popular band that people knew. I was like, oh, Yellow Card, everyone knows them. Okay, so now we're gonna get into like some skateboarding shots I've done. On the left over here, we have Lizzie Armanto. She tours with Tony Hawk, and she's actually the first woman to do like that loop, if anyone's familiar with that. And she's so badass. On the right, we have Samaria. She's a really great street skater. As you can tell, she's hopping down those stairs. We have Mariah Duran over here. So yeah, as you can see, I'm up close and personal, like in their space, trying to get the shot. And then this was the first ever street league in Chicago with me and all of the pros. It's just a really tight community, and I'm so happy that I get to be a part of it. And this is 2017 Street League. Literally every woman in this shot will be at the Olympics. So it's really awesome to see that. And then I have one more photo. This was me at my second X Games on the course. And it's just, I don't know, yeah. That's that. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
It's super cool. Oh my god. His photos are amazing. Nam also has a food blog with her girlfriend Tina called Comatose. So Rose is up next, and Rose speaks 3 languages, including 2 really hard ones, Mandarin and Russian. The other one's English, so that one's easy.
All right. Is this on? Yes. Okay, so I reserve the right to drink wine during this. So you are welcome to get up and get wine or beer if you want. Yeah, so also just to note, like if you need to pee or something, I'm actually going to be on a little longer than everybody else. I just need it. Okay, so yeah, I'm here to talk to you guys today about my self-love matrimony, which I know brings up a lot of questions and thoughts and feelings. So we'll just get a few of these questions I get all the time out of the way. It doesn't, just because I married myself about 2 years ago now, it doesn't mean that I've given up on love or that I no longer date. In fact, my wonderful boyfriend is over here tonight with us. But, shh. It does mean that I committed to self-love very seriously in a very serious party, which was so much fun, and that I work on this all the time. This is a huge part of my life, obviously. So, yeah, I literally forgot what I was about to say next. This is so great, and just thank you guys so much for coming. And a lot of the people that were there at my wedding are here tonight, and it makes me so happy. Yeah. All right. So, okay, wait, let's take it back. Oh yeah, okay, so, all right. I know, like I said, it's really confusing, and there's a lot of things involved in it that I don't think you can really get without knowing more of the full story. So let me try to give that to you. But to do that, we have to go back in time a little bit to my high school bedroom. Don't worry, won't be there for very long. So who here also ripped pages out of magazines and put them up on their walls, ads or photos, right? Yeah. So we were vision boarding before we even knew what vision boarding was. When I saw vision boarding, I was like, yeah, duh. Obviously you have to do that. Okay, anyways, okay. Who else may or may not have seen this ad campaign? Shh. Okay. Does anyone remember this? The right hand ring campaign? Anybody? Who? Yes, right? Yes. So it was this brilliant ad campaign targeted at super strong, powerful women who don't need no man, can't afford their own, but still want love, which is totally me. So I really connected with this. And we're actually going to just zoom in on one of these. There were a ton more than this and a ton more on my walls. But this one's a really good one, so we can zoom in on that. Your left hand declares your commitment. Your right hand is a declaration of independence. Your left hand lives for love. Your right hand lives for the moment. Your left hand wants to be held, but your right hand wants to be held high. Women of the world, raise your right hand. Chills, right? Whoa. Yeah, so, all right. So like I said, this really connected with me, and I believe there might have been a seed planted somewhere around this time. I really like this idea of kind of turning traditions on their head. There's something about that I really connect with. All right, so we can jump forward, back forward in time. to sometime during my 29th trip around the sun. A really good friend of mine wanted to share a TED Talk with me, but she wouldn't just send it to me. She wanted to watch it together. So I was like, okay. All right, so I'm sure you've all heard this before. Like, you have to watch this TED Talk. It's going to change your life. Well, here we go again. All right. So this awesome woman named Tracy McMillan, who is a beautiful writer. She's also a funny writer. She writes on a bunch of TV shows you definitely like. Had a TED Talk called The Person You Really Need to Marry. Spoiler alert, it's yourself. And this TED Talk is amazing, and I really do think you should watch it. But I'm just going to relay a few of the messages that really stayed with me and led me on my journey. So she lays out these like beautiful, compelling arguments about how, you know, kind of fucking crazy it is that we like ask other people, especially one person in particular, to love us in this like incredible way. Like, no matter what, like even if I suck for 8 years, like you still have to love me. You know, like that is crazy, right? Like we are asking someone else to do this. Meanwhile, even crazier, we are piling on the self-loathing and negative talk that literally makes it hard to be in the same room alone with ourselves sometimes. Like, think about how you don't want to meditate. Like, I don't want to be alone with her. She's mean. Like, that's like not a safe place, right? So like, I really think about, like, as soon as she said that, I was like, ooh, yeah, I felt that. I connect. That's right. And she goes on to say how love is really like this strength and like muscle that you can build, or it could be a challenge. It could be something that you falter in, you can't really seem to get right? But you can work on it and you can build it, and you really need to focus on building it within yourself before you take your freaking garbage dump out to someone else's front yard and like pour it all over the place and hope that they fix it somehow, right? Okay, anyways, sorry. So, yeah, so she kind of like really, she very brilliantly lays this out. I am butchering it madly, but so you should watch it. But yeah, I really connected with that as well, because like I am someone who is looking for love. Like I want humongous love that is like unbelievable, like so, like boundless, like wild, like just chasing out of me. And when she said that, and I realized that I was kind of hoping somebody would like fill in the gaps of all my like bad things, right? Like I was like, wait, yeah, that's not actually what I even want. Like, sure, maybe that'd be nice, but like not really. Like I want to be with somebody who, you know, has worked through their own demons, and like we can share our love together, not like he has to manage my mood because like somebody said something and now I'm a mess. Like, nah. All right. So again, I was like, ooh, God, girl, yes. Okay. So then she goes on to explain about how you can actually do this, right? Like, what does it look like to like marry yourself? So like these take yourself out on a date suggestions that we see a lot of nowadays. And the point of those, you know, I don't mean to just like say like, yeah, but the point of those is to figure out what you actually like. Think about all the things you just do on repeat, like the things that you've been doing with your friends since college, like things that you saw on TV, like girlfriends like to get coffee together. Like I like coffee. Yes. Like, so yeah, like you can think through, like if you give yourself that space, you could actually think through like, what do I like? It could be something super cool, like skateboarding and photographing skateboarders. Where'd she go? Yeah, like it could be something really cool that, yeah, like otherwise wouldn't exist without you. So again, I was like, but then her tone completely shifts. And I was like, oh. She's like, and then you put a goddamn ring on it. You commit to this. You're not saying that you're going to love yourself if you finally get that career that you wanted, or if you stop watching reality TV, or in my case, if you get your sleep schedule on goddamn track so you can live your goddamn life, whatever. Okay, so this is something that you show up every day. You committed to it, and so you're going to be there. If it sucks, live in the suck. Like, whatever, who cares? There can be love underneath all that. And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay, so I live like a pretty good life, and like I give myself things that I want. I chase my dreams. Like I work hard. Like I play hard. But I knew that when she said that, I like felt it. I knew that this was the real difference between saying you love yourself and actually loving yourself. Because when I like always show up, even like, damn it, because when the going really got tough, I never defended myself against that mean old bitch in my head. That mean girl who wanted me to pay for every small mistake I ever made and just felt that I deserved punishment over and over and over again for this. If I had married somebody else, that man better stick up for me. If somebody tried to say that shit to me, I never stood up for myself. And I'm sorry, but that's just ass backwards. That hurt, like it hurts now thinking about it. Whew. All right, let me collect myself, okay? Thank you. All right, so I was really touched by her talk, and I knew that I was gonna need a daily reminder to keep remembering this, because it's like easy to forget, right? So basically, I remembered the Right Hand Ring campaign, and I knew that I needed to put a goddamn ring on it. So I started searching for my ring, but then a few months later, it went a few steps further when I was planning, like I said, I was 29, and I was getting ready to plan my 30th birthday party, which I wanted to be really big. And I was trying the visualization exercise with my friend, the same friend actually, who showed me this TED Talk. And I knew I wanted it to be fancy, like everyone should get dressed up. Nobody ever dresses up in San Francisco, and it's insane. And I wanted there to be flowers and like all vegan food and like only wine from my favorite winery, and that's it. And like all these things, and I sparkly and loving, and suddenly I was like, we were like walking somewhere, and I like stopped dead in my tracks, and I was like, this is gonna be my wedding. I am gonna commit in front of everybody I can get in a room, and I am gonna be serious about this. Like, this is something I really want. And that process was really long, and I cannot get into that right now, but some other time. But I kind of want to like shift. So now you know kind of like where I was coming from, like how I got there. And I want to kind of shift this into maybe like a realm where you can see yourself in it, where you can see where these benefits really came in, and how, first of all, it doesn't have to be the same thing. Like, I like fancy parties. Most people probably don't like fancy parties, whatever. So one of the first benefits is that it can be whatever party you want. Do you even know what your ideal party is? Does anyone think that they actually know what that is? Ooh, a few people are saying yes. Ooh, I want to hear about these. But yeah, they could really be anything, but no matter what, the people in your life are gonna wanna show up to a party where you are being true to you, and you are claiming that you are gonna show up for yourself every day. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's a really cool space to like own and inhabit and step into, and see what side you step out of it, Another big benefit is that it's a good trial run. So for me, it was a wedding, right? I wanted to like turn that on its head. So I got out all my psycho lady stuff about my wedding, got to have whatever I wanted, and I will be hopefully much more willing to compromise when it comes time to that day. But sure enough, I was yelling at my freaking mother, who was just trying to help, and people were late, and I was in despair, and it was just like a madhouse. But now I have so much more awareness around like, I'm not doing that. Like, if it means I pay another $500 like for someone else to handle that, like, good. But at the time, it's like you always got to make mistakes. So I really recommend it if you want to do a trial run of your wedding, if you fear you might be a control freak or something like this. Okay. So another benefit is that you may be able to develop some rituals. So for my vows and for my actual ceremony, like I knew what I was going to do for the party, but I wasn't sure what to do about the ceremony. And ultimately, I decided to have that be a very private thing, which kind of sucked because I kind of wanted some people to be there. But I knew that if I took that on, I would be trying to like define self-love for everyone. Like I would feel that like people are like, I want to see what self-love is. Like, so I'll go, and that would just be weird. So I chose to have it be very private. And I chose to buy a mirror, like a really pretty mirror that I liked, simple. But that mirror, so I like looked deeply into my eyes, my beautiful, beautiful eyes, and I made promises and commitments. And here's two of them that I always love to share. I will always take such good care of you. And whatever happens, I choose you. And I know this may seem like pretty baseline to some of you, but this was like a stretch for me. This was like a lot for me. Like I was not taught this. Like I was taught to put other people's needs ahead of mine and that whole thing. And yeah, all right. So, so I can return to that mirror every damn day, every day. I can go there if I'm like feeling weak, feeling low, I can come back to it and I can look at myself and I see myself immediately. I can it's a ritual that I can have, I can keep. And that's something really valuable to me. So in your own journey, if you choose to go on it, which I really, really should, you may find a ritual that comes into your life every day, and it's really powerful. It's also another big benefit. Like I said, a lot of the people who are here tonight were there, including a lot of my work friends and work family, real family, and friend family. And the really big benefit of this, there's a reason why when two people decide to get married, they make all their family and friends come, because they want it to get fucking real, right? They want it to be like, this is serious, okay? Like if I slip, you need to hold me accountable. But you are much less likely to slip because everyone is not only supporting you doing that, they're like, yeah, you should. They expect you to put yourself first. They expect you to put that person first. There's humongous power in that. That is something I was not thinking was gonna come. I didn't know that. That's a huge gift. Now my life can be simpler because I can just, I don't even have to say it. If I put myself first, people are like, oh yeah, it makes sense, cool. Which is very helpful for me. So yeah, it was a beautiful night and I totally can't get into all of it, even though I wish I could. But I'll leave you with this last piece. One of the things I also found really interesting was that I felt in the planning process, okay, once I get there, that day, finish line, done, love myself, boom, got it, and I genuinely felt that, I feel like that's still a reasonable assumption that I made technically. However, that was no finish line. That seriously was the starting line. It was day one. And I really want to share that because it's like I said before, you might think that you're doing all the things and you're reading all the things and trying to implement them, but going on that journey for yourself and proclaiming it in front of people who care about you, who know you, it's a totally different ballgame. And it may seem like a lot of work, it may seem silly, it may seem extra. That's just my party. Your party can be whatever you want. You have a pizza party. You can do meetup, whatever. You can go for coffee if you like coffee. Anyway, so yeah, that's the main part I want to leave you guys with. It's a road worth taking, which sounds really silly too. But anyways.
So, our next speaker, Teza, changes her hair once a month. But also, Teza's first name actually means pleasant, and her middle name is Money. So her name is basically Pleasant Money.
Hi. As I was preparing for this talk, I was actually in Thailand. And I got the message and I messaged my mom, and the time difference was funny. She was also really mad at me for going to Thailand. But I wrote to her and I said, Mom, they called me to come speak at a women's event. And I don't know who I'm supposed to show up as. And she's like, well, you'll figure it out. You always do. But a few weeks have passed since then. And I had another conversation with her today. And I said, Mom, I've written this thing 4 times, and I still don't know who I'm showing up as. If you've ever watched the movie The Hate You Give, she explains it really well about how women of color have to switch back and forth between their different personalities. But imagine not only having those two personalities, but then also having on top of that different titles. So that was the story of my life. Last year, I was working at an e-commerce company in the daytime. I was a web developer, top tier in that company. And then I was in another company at night teaching as a college professor at 25, which was crazy. Which was really crazy and nerve-wracking in itself because not only was I teaching at a college, but I was teaching at my old college, which was even more overwhelming in a sense because it's almost easier to be around strangers. I was super nervous and I was freaking out because I had just turned 25 and my quarter life crisis kicked in, and I'm like, I plan to do this in 10 years, and you know, it came in 3 weeks once I had like made up the plan. Once people knew what it was that I wanted to do, they opened the doors because I had already done the work. And it was still nerve-wracking. It's interesting. We spoke about imposter syndrome earlier, and even when I work for the things that I know that I've tried to achieve, somehow they still don't necessarily feel like they're mine. It feels like it took the work of many, and maybe that's the gratitude in me that says like I should pay it forward and I should like always say thank you and feel like my wins are other people's, but at the same time it's something that I feel like a lot of women actually go through. And so also along with those two things, I was also working with another e-commerce brand and working as a model with them and doing their online campaigns and things like that. And so every single hour of the day, depending on what time you called me, I was a different person. The way that I talked was different, the way that I communicated, the way that people connected with me, the way that people reached me. And so when I come here and I look at like all these different faces, it's exciting to me because when I went to my first conference, I actually took my mom. And my mom was a database analyst, had worked in the industry for 20 years. And my company kind of laughed at me when I was like, I'm taking my mom with us on the company trip. But when we walked in, her the first thing that she said once we like got all of our swag and like we're sitting around with our t-shirts and hanging around with my company was, wow, nothing's changed. And it was a little disheartening because I was like super proud that I was even in the room. But knowing that she had been in an industry for 20 years and no one in that room looked like us was it was alarming. So I have this whole sticky note system of dreams that stick. Some people do vision boards, but I do sticky notes. And it's on the back of my door. So every single day when I get up, I look at all my goals that I have and what I can take inventory of and like take care of today. And so on my list was being able to speak. And I said, okay, 5 years. 5 years and somebody's gonna think I'm worth having something that was worth sharing, that I had a story worth telling, that I had enough knowledge to share. And again, I'm a little bit of a speed demon. I planned for 5, it came in 3. And so not only was it 3 years, but it was my 3rd conference when I finally got to speak. When I finished and wrapped my talk, and that's a story in itself because I was giving a business talk in a design and development, like if there was 2 tracks, design and development, and they're like, okay, we're calling you in to do a business talk. And I'm like, what are you guys doing to me? like I don't even know how that fits on the plan, but they're like, no, we really want you to just do this talk. I walk in and I do the talk, and I look around and the room is filled. It's standing room only. And my mentor comes up after me. He's like, the other room is empty. Everyone's in your room. And I heard him, but I wasn't processing it. And so I walked back to the back of the room after giving the talk, and there was a lady who was in her 50s that came over to me, and she said, hey, I want to work for your company. And I was like, my company's not that big yet. Like, I'm not taking internships. And she's like, no, I really want to work for your company. Well, that lady ended up being my student when I finally got my teaching position. And so when I walked in on the first day of class and I went around the room and I said, what do you want to learn most out of this e-commerce class? Like, what do you hope to gain? And then why are you here? And tell me your name, of course. Her response was, I'm so thankful that you're here. Like, I'm glad that you're my teacher. I wanted to work with you, and I've been trying to figure out ways to get around to work with you. And it was so comforting to me because she didn't know I was freaking out that I was 25. And so a lot of times it's uncomfortable to walk into spaces where people don't look like you. Maybe it's male dominated. Maybe people don't talk like you. Maybe they don't even talk to you when you enter the room. But usually that means that you have the most to add to the room. It means that you have the most value, a different insight, a different perspective, and people can't pay for that. One of the things that we did in my classroom was I had this fashion student. She was super adorable, and all the rest of my students were web students. And so she came over to me at the start of the class, right after we did introductions, and she's like, I'm really scared. I don't know any of these web terms, but she was fashion and marketing. And I said, don't worry, we'll go over the terms and I'll make sure that you're good. A few weeks into the class, the way that it's structured is it is a group course, and each student has a different position inside the e-commerce business. And so she happened to be a CEO along with 2 of my other students who were very much high achiever, overachievers, all 3 of the CEOs. Week 3, I gave them a little push. So they had contracts for each one of their businesses, and they had their startups, and they were getting ready to pitch to me, the investor. And I said, are you guys ready for the plot twist? And you could just imagine them running and being like, no, because no college student wants to hear the word plot twist. Week 3, right before midterms. And so I let them know that their CEOs had been fired, and they were going to have to pitch themselves to the other companies. All 3 of them had 5 minutes to go and decide what their 3 greatest strengths were and their 1 biggest weakness to pitch themselves to the other companies. So we turned around, and the students came up and they pitched themselves. And I had each one of the groups talk about why they chose who they chose as their top, and they had to rank their people. The fashion student was chosen by all the groups. All of them at the same, each one of the groups turned around and said that we wanted her because she was different. She had a different skill set, and everyone else has the same one. Thank you.
To this point, when I was at Austin Design Week, actually, which Danielle organized, and it's super cool. You should go. It's the best conference. I remember someone talking about if you're in a room and you see someone sitting alone or standing alone, and especially if they're like some sort of minority, think about the fact that they might be really intimidated by the fact that they're the only one in the room who feels really different. And so it's a really big deal if you're not in that minority to go over to that person and be like, hey, like, let me introduce you around, or let me talk to you and let me involve you. So that was a really good tip from that one. So Cassian, who is talking about bad haircuts. So one time, Cassian high-fived Stephen Colbert. That's a fun fact.
All right. Hey, my name is Cassian, and before I start talking about bad haircuts, I want you to know that I think this is a good haircut. So, like, so this is not a bad haircut, but this journey starts all the way back in 2013, so it's taken a minute. In September 2013, my best friend showed up to high school, and she looked completely different. Her long curly hair that she'd been growing out for a really long time was all gone, and I was super surprised. I was like, when were you starting to plan this? Like, how did you decide this? I didn't even know this was an option. I was asking her all these questions, but really the question that I had, she'd already answered by showing up. My question was, can I cut off all my hair? I'd wanted to cut off all my hair since middle school when all the boys had like the Justin Bieber swoopy haircut. And I was like, I think I can do that, but like I could do it better. So in December 2013, I was no longer like doing school sports. Like I didn't need to slick my hair back or anything. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. I scrolled through like hundreds of pictures on Google of like women who had short hairs and they all had like the same hair, like pixie cut, like a ton of makeup, earrings, like anything to make them look feminine, but they had short hair. So I found one that didn't look like that, and I took it to the hairdresser. I don't even remember getting my haircut cut by anyone else except this person, and I was like, I want this haircut. And she's like, no way, you've always had long hair, like you don't want this. And it took a while of convincing, but she finally did it, and she gave me the pixie cut that I didn't want. So that was great. So this is like the first of many bad haircuts until I got one that I wanted. So for example, in October 2015, I got an undercut on accident. It's not what I wanted, but that's what happened. So it's like, all right, whatever, grow it out. And then I go home and the person who normally cuts my hair isn't there. And I was like, perfect. I'll go to someone else and she won't know who I am and she'll give me the haircut that I want. So I give her this picture. It's this person who has like light purple hair. It's like tapered down to a 2, which if you don't know, is like a quarter of an inch, like really short. So I was like, okay, here's what I want. It's gonna look great. So she turns me around, does the whole haircut. Like I'm not looking in the mirror. And she turns me back around and I look in the mirror and I don't see myself, but I also don't see this person who had cool purple hair. I see like this 12-year-old who's going to like boarding school for the first time with a nice crew cut. And I was like, okay. And she sees the look on my face and is like, oh, this was like a really edgy haircut. Like I didn't want you to regret it. Like I don't think you would want this. So I just gave you this haircut. And I was like, cool. So I left and I thought, you know what's a great idea is to try to fix this with a second haircut. Don't do that because then I ended up with a worse haircut and then I was just even more upset. And that's just one of the many times where I walked in and was like, hey, this is what I want. And the person saw me, thought they knew who I was, thought what kind of haircut I wanted, and gave me that instead. So determined to avoid this, in 2017, I, on a whim, drove over to Walmart, which was one of like 3 places in the college town I went to, and bought hair clippers, like the cheapest one. I was like, I'm gonna cut my own hair. And did it look good? No. But did it look how I kind of wanted it to look? Yes. So that was first step, but I knew I couldn't keep doing that because it looked bad. Like it looked bad. I was about to do interviews, like I couldn't cut my own hair and be like, hey, I'm graduating, I'm very professional, and I definitely cut my hair 2 days ago. So I finally gained the courage and was like, okay, I'm gonna schedule a men's haircut. Like if the people think I'm a man, they'll give me a men's haircut, which is all I've wanted this whole time. But I was really scared. Like, what if I go in and they think I'm trying to cheat them out of money? Like, men's haircuts are cheaper than women's haircuts. Like, what if I go in and they think I made a mistake and they just give me that anyway? Like, what'll happen? I've never been in like a barber shop before, but I show up and I'm like, here, this is the haircut what I want. And they call me sir the whole time and give me the haircut, and it looks great. And it's like, this is what I wanted the whole time. Thank you so much. And it is so much cheaper than every other haircut I got that I hated. So, and I realized through all this, it didn't matter which photos I brought in or anything like that. People were gonna look at me and assume that I was a woman or that I was a man and give me the haircut that they thought I wanted. And this happens to me all the time. It doesn't just happen when I get my haircut. It happens whenever people call me sir or ma'am. They're wrong. But now I realize I don't have control over that. I can just dress how I want. I can buy clothes from the men's section. I can move to California and get an X on my driver's license. I can actually correct people when they say she or he and say, no, I use they. And I know now that all I can do when I go get a haircut is walk in and sit in the chair, and whatever happens, it'll all grow back. Thank you.
The worst haircut I ever had was the first time I came to America, and I didn't know what a JCPenney was, but I went in there and got my haircut, and I was like, can I have a trim? And they gave me a mullet. But the woman was like, you have such great hair, like people would kill for this. And I was like, you give me a mullet. And I went home and cried. And then I went to Iceland, and I didn't have like proper hair cutting things, but I did have nail clippers. So in a bathroom in Iceland, I took the nail clippers and I spent a very long time trying to cut my hair with nail clippers. It's not a good idea. It didn't look better, but it did look different to the mullet. So there was that. Okay, so our last storyteller of the night is Jessica Lair. The story might make you cry. But Jessica used to be a professional opera singer, and now she's a software developer.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Jessica. I used to be a professional opera singer, and now I'm a software engineer at Gap Brands. And I typed this up like I'm in 5th grade in DARE doing a presentation, only because I am going to get very personal with you guys tonight. And this topic is not something I normally tell people, let alone to a large group like this. But I recently was told that the things that we're most embarrassed by in our life carry the most weight. And I do believe my story is something that should be told, even if I'm embarrassed by it still. So please bear with me. I might get emotional, but it's all part of the healing process. So I am from North Carolina, and this part of, Carolina in the house. This part of the South that I was raised in, I was raised to believe that my only purpose or value in life is to get married, have children, and be that good submissive wife, right? And I definitely did that. Plot twist. Minus the children, thank God. But like that's exactly what I did. And I got married young, believing like this was my destiny. And I really had no career at this point. I had worked my entire life since I was 9 years old at being an opera singer, made it all the way to the Juilliard School for a master's. Thank you. While I was there, I developed vocal polyps, had to have surgery, and then that was it. So I moved back to North Carolina. I got married, had no career. I was like, you know what, maybe everything that I was told in life is true. Maybe this is my destiny, and I'm not okay with it. But I could do this. I could be that submissive woman. And looking at it, I just really settled for this complacency that I was forced to believe was my life. And one thing you should know about me is I've always been the kind of person to step to the beat of my own drum. And I growing up, like, I never took shit from anybody. I challenged everything. And when I developed polyps, like, my spirit was broken. Like, everything that I wanted to do in life came to a halt. And I was like, okay, fine. You win. I'll get married. And then after I got married, I was introduced to coding and to technology. And I was like, holy shit, like, I could reach people the way that music was able to do. And I can potentially change people's lives. And so I taught myself how to code. And my husband at the time, he was initially supportive. He was like, oh yeah, you should learn a hobby. Do something useful. And like, this is something you can spend your time doing while I'm at work. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I am going to teach myself how to code. And so I did. It wasn't until I asked him if I could do a boot camp where he stopped being supportive. And he would say things along the lines of like, I don't know why you're trying so hard at this. Like, I'm just going to force you to stop, and like next year, and you're going to have our kids, and I'm going to work, and you're just going to stay at home and take care of them. Or he would be like, oh, that's so cute. You think you're smart enough to do this. I'm so proud of you. And I was like, okay, go fuck yourself. Like, that's when my animosity started to grow, and I'm a very vindictive person, I believe. The best way, the best revenge is through success, silence and success. So it wasn't until I was able to land my own internship at a publicly traded company called Lending Tree that things for me really started to flourish in my professional life. And they eventually converted me to full-time. And I just grew into this whole new person. Like I said, when I developed vocal polyps, my spirit was broken. I no longer had a voice. I felt like I didn't have this purpose in life. And coding and really just running my show at work and calling the shots, like, I found my backbone, I found my voice, and I really felt like I finally had a purpose in life again. Unfortunately, the more I grew into like this badass person who didn't take shit from anybody at work, the worse my marriage was becoming. I would go home 5, 6, sometimes 8 o'clock at night, depending on what work wanted or called for. And I would go home and I would just cower in a corner because at home, I wasn't allowed to have this voice. I wasn't allowed to make my own decisions. I didn't have access to the bank accounts. Anytime I would use the credit card or the debit card, I had to ask for permission. If I had purchased something at work for like $2, he would call me immediately. And I was like, you know, this isn't right, but like, I don't know how to navigate this. Like, I'm supposed to have a good, successful marriage and a good, successful career, and I didn't know what to do. And eventually it just got really, really abusive emotionally and physically. And everybody at work could see that, and I was embarrassed. They saw the pain on my face. They would hear the way he would talk to me, and I was making excuses. But eventually one day I just snapped. And I was like, enough is enough. I'm leaving. And so I did. And I left so hard that I flew over 3,000 miles and landed in San Francisco. And here I am today. Thank you. So I moved here to break away and to find my voice and to ultimately find my freedom that had been taken away from me. Moving here symbolized everything I knew I could be, and it really gave me more of a power and confidence that I had never had before, even when I was on stage at the Juilliard School. I don't think I can adequately describe the feeling that I had when my plane took off in Charlotte, but to sum it up, it felt like 1,000 weights had been taken off my back. Unfortunately, when I moved here, I was under so much stress that I got extremely sick. And I started dropping weight like crazy, experiencing severe anxiety, abnormal bruising all over my legs and arms. And I was like, maybe the bruising is from getting drunk and falling over, but like, I would have remembered this. So after extensive testing over like a span of 9 months, it was discovered that my body was no longer producing the necessary hormones that I needed to survive. And keep in mind, I was in a new city, didn't know anybody here, didn't have any family. And I was trying to navigate through this new job and grow in my career, but I was told, hey, you're dying. My doctor said that if I hadn't come in when I did, I would have died within 6 months. Because of this, I went through severe psychosis, depression, and I was experiencing menopause, and my body was like not processing foods the right way. It's just like a whole list of things. I was so far lost at one point in my own depression and mental state before I was diagnosed that, okay, this is something I've never admitted to a crowd before, so just bear with me. Thank you. I found myself standing on the Golden Gate Bridge. And I think every morning that I woke up, I knew something was wrong. And my crew of doctors were like, just take some time. It's probably stress. We'll keep doing tests. But every single day, I just knew I wasn't myself and something was wrong. And I didn't know what was wrong. And I didn't know how to stop it. It was like this out of body experience. Like, wake the fuck up. Like, come on, like, get your shit together. But I couldn't. I just couldn't. And it was on that day that I was stopped. And that's when I was brought to a hospital. And my doctors were like, okay, well, we really need to speed up this process now because, like, you're really depressed. And it was on that day that I was diagnosed with a life-threatening disease called hypopituitarism, and it's extremely rare. I think it's like 2,000 people out of 1 million get diagnosed with it. And on top of that, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And so let me figure out where I am in my life story. Okay, here we go. So now, back to it. So hypopituitarism, long story short, is, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the pituitary gland, but it basically is your motherboard for your body. Like, you can't live without it functioning, and mine is dying. Short story long. My pituitary gland is being suppressed. The more I stress about things, the more cortisol my body secretes. And both of those things, the pituitary gland and cortisol, are killing each other. Just like, no, I'm going to win. No, I'm going to win. And so, like, my body's just in this internal struggle of like, what's going to kill me faster? So I'm on an insane amount of medications, hormone replacements. But you know what? Through all of this, I've learned that stress management is really important. You always hear that, like, stress will kill you. No, stress will literally kill me. So no matter what bullshit life throws at you, you have to keep things into perspective. Some days I wake up and I'm like, oh, this is my reality. I have to take like 15 pills, wear a patch on my body, do MRIs once a month to monitor my brain and blood work. And I'm like, I would be okay if a bus hit me today. Like, just take me out of my misery. But then I think, some people have never seen running water, and it gets put into perspective. And it's never as bad as it seems. If someone or something is causing you to stress and you don't see them adding value into your life, cut them out. Like, your life is so short. Like, my life is so fucking short, people. Like, I don't know when I'm gonna die. My endocrinologist compared me to a dog with liver failure. And they're like, like, when a dog has like liver or kidney failure, like, we don't know until it's at like 80%. That is your life. We won't know when you're gonna die until you hit that 80% mark. but trust me, you'll know. And I was like, okay, so stress management, cutting bullshit out of my life is the key to living longer. And I don't know if anybody in this room has ever experienced that gut-wrenching pain of feeling like you're alone and you don't have anybody and you don't know what's wrong with you, but it just keeps spiraling out of control. But you should know that it does get better. Mental health is so important. And know that your mental health and your destiny is greater than any major or minor event that you're going through in life. And you're the only one that will ever be in this world. And this is something I tell myself every single day when I wake up. Like, you are the only you that will ever be in this world, so do not fucking dare deny this world its one and only chance to bask in your brilliance. We have so much power that we harbor inside of ourselves. We are able to take our life dream and manifest it into reality if you just get past the bullshit that's telling you that you can't do it, or the bullshit that people are telling you that you are not good enough, right? It's simple as that. Like, everyone in this room, like, you're here for a reason, right? You're here to hear these stories of badass people overcoming things, and like, we're all badasses. And we have the power to overcome so much more than we know. And like, look at me. My life is a shit show. And the only way that I can get through this reality is by laughing about it and joking about it. And I let myself have a pity party for like 10 minutes out of the day. Like, I recently was converted at Gap full time, and one of my patches for estrogen was changed to a different brand, and it like literally ate the skin off my body. And I was like, this fucking sucks and it hurts. But like, I cried for 10 minutes and I was like, okay, well, it's keeping me alive, so eat my flesh, bitch. So yeah, I will reiterate, you are the only you that will ever be, so do not deny this world its one and only chance to bask in your brilliance. You have the power to heal yourself if you let yourself do that. So, and regardless of your situation, it could always be worse. So just keep pushing forward and don't take no for an answer, and just be like, I'm gonna fuck shit up. Thank you for my TED Talk.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, thank you for coming. Please stick around for a little while, eat more food, drink more alcohol, get to know each other, hang around until 9:30 and then leave. I'm gonna play some more Spice Girls. Yeah, have a good night.